Welcome to Quest Givers. I'm the DMG and this is DM Scotty, and in this video we're going to talk about how to create realistic NPCs for all your tabletop role-playing games.
If you're looking for adventure, excitement, thrills, and a dice-rolling good time, sit back and enjoy the next few minutes with Quest Givers DM Scotty and DMG. They're taking you on an epic journey through the role-playing experience every Friday. Learn the ways of the Game Master, the Dungeon Master, and delve into the minds of the players. Grab the modules each month to support the channel and play the campaign with your gaming group. You're sure to get hooked on adventure.
So if you haven't yet, sign up for our newsletter on questgivers.com, where we'll send you all kinds of interesting information and, notify you of release of modules and things like that. Scotty, NPCs, extremely important component of a role-playing game. NPC standing for non-player character. So these are characters that are controlled by the GM, DM, Dungeon Master, Flame Tenderer, Director, whatever you call it in your game. So I think this is, to me, is one of the fun parts of writing our modules, is writing all these interesting characters and all this sort of stuff into the game. And I've always enjoyed NPCs, especially when a DM puts a lot of life into an NPC. You want to interact with this character, you want to find out more. So where do you start when you're looking at creating an NPC?
I think the start is need. Like, does the story need a particular NPC? There can be all kinds of NPCs walking around that the players interact with, but at certain points your story is going to need an NPC. It's going to need, like we're talking about this month, mentors, right? Our story needs a mentor. It needs a villain. It needs different types of things that drive the story and make it interesting, right? So yeah, I think that's the first part of thinking up cool NPCs. What kind of need do they fill, and how will they fill that need?
There are basically four primary narrative things that the main NPCs you'll need. Okay, and the first one is aptly the quest giver. So this is the person who runs into the tavern and says the orcs are coming, with the exclamation point above his head or her head. This is the character that basically their sole job in the story is to tell you that there's a problem, that you as the characters will need to solve. So very important then. Then the mentor, which I talked about in the previous video. The mentor is about teaching the player characters and gifting them information or objects or whatever, or as a code that they live by that informs the way that they do things. Then you have the guardian. Now the guardian is an interesting character. That's the NPC that they need to go past in order to get into the dungeon or get past something in the village, or it's the gatekeeper effectively that tests the PCs. It doesn't need to be something super complicated. It could be as simple as what's the password. That is used very often, but that is the guardian character that basically forms a barrier between the players and where they're actually going to end up in this special location where they fight monsters and so on and so forth. Now, it doesn't actually need to be a person. It could be something like a door. So the door can act as a gateway, but typically it is accompanied by something, a character or a monster or something that protects that door. So I've done it like a bear that protects a cave, or a goblin patrol that protects the dungeon, or things like that can kind of just be that initial point of contact between the players and that part of the story. And then the other one is the ally. Now the ally is someone who joins the party, and it's traditionally in stories, this is something that's usually there to assist them along the journey or to provide information. It's the character when they ask, well, what does this thing do? And the character goes, oh, well, this functions as. They expose information to the audience. But in a role-playing game, the ally actually can help fill the gaps where the group don't have certain skills. So for instance, if you didn't have a magic user and it's going to be important that a spell gets cast, you may bring a wizard along for the journey. So they may be in the tavern when the guy runs in and says, "Oh, the orcs are attacking." You need to go to the orc main camp, but it's protected by some magic spell and you need the spell to dispel it. You can bring this wizard along for the ride. So that's the ally. All these sort of things, we could do whole books on just each individual one. But as the role in the narrative, just remember those 4 ones are the key components. Now there are others, and over time we will go into things like the trickster and all these kind of stuff that are not as central to the narrative as these 4.
I don't like to go into too crazy of detail with NPCs, even major NPCs. I like to kind of think of a personality. You can think of like an actor or a performance that can help, inform you of what you might want to do, and think about kind of their role in the story. Every NPC wants something, right? They all want something. So, what is their want? And their motivation, right? And then what is their personality? How are they going to interact with the NPCs? And just a few quick notes is all you need. You don't need reams and reams of history, because as the players interact, you can add those elements as the players are feeding you information, right? Maybe you'll take the NPC in a different way that you hadn't expected. Maybe you're expecting it to go a certain way and it went a different way. So why not just play along with what the players are feeding you, right? And so that makes them super interested in the NPC, because you're feeding off of what they're giving you and you're kind of giving it back. Not necessarily a mirror, but you're kind of giving them what they want, because when you play a game, you want to give the players what they want. If the players want, NPCs that they, just have philosophical conversations with, then give them those NPCs. If they want, just hardened warriors and just, get into combat as quickly as possible, give them antagonistic NPCs, or, give them the information as quickly as possible and get them into combat. So that can really inform how you will do your NPCs. And not every game is going to be the same. Some players like interactions with NPCs, and others just want to get past it and get on to the action. So yeah, you can give everybody that in your game. Just be open to it in your mind, in your eye, and see how the players are reacting, and then feed off that for your NPCs.
I do the same thing. I use people as templates, or characters from movies as templates, and then I do like a 25 word or less, sort of description, that kind of just, if people ask what they look like, it's just like he's a burly old guy with, a scar above his eye and, a limp. That's all you really need to know. And if you do accents or something like that, make a note of what accent you use, so that you don't switch accents from like Indian to German to French to whatever for the same character. So you need that sort of level of continuity. But I think you touched on 2 things there. In the creation of the NPC, there's 2 factors that are extremely important. One is their motivation. So what's motivating this character to do anything in the world, right? What is their central core tenet? What is their, why? What is their sort of reason for being? And the other thing is their immediate needs. Now, an immediate need can be in contrast to the actual motivation, and the dynamic between these 2 makes the character even more interesting. So for instance, let's say you have a knight, like we have knights of old in our module. Let's say you have a knight, but the knight's goal is to protect the realm. That's his motivation. Everything he does is to protect the realm. But then his immediate need is he's starving. So he may drop his overall goal because he needs to eat. That makes his character a lot more interesting. So you can then play on, well, it may not just be eat. It may be that he needs to get home to his wife, or his child is missing, and that immediate need is contradicting the actual motivation. But they're 2 strong, powerful forces in this actual character. And just those two simple things, throwing two things together that are conflicting, generates wonderful character interactions. Because when they're talking to the characters, you know, if this knight is hungry, he's going to like, have you got any food? Not, why are you on this road? You know, this is not for peasants or whatever. You know, his need is, I'm hungry. That's what comes first. Once they've fed him, then he asks, well, why are you on this road? You know, and he'll give them a little bit of leeway because they fed him. They've sort of helped him out, so he's not going to be as, you know, not going to be as antagonistic towards them. So you can immediately see that that works really, really well. Just those two things will help you out immensely in generating great NPCs. So, but a lot of people want to protect those NPCs that they've created.
Yes, just kind of pigeonhole, you know, like the players with the NPCs. Like if you just, you know, if you have the breaking of the game, if you have a story and you're going to tell this story and there's these exact NPCs and they got to do it A, B, C, D, and E, and F, and they don't want to do that, or, you know, something else is getting their interest and they're not following your story, the worst thing you can do is just to keep having these NPCs, you know, interject into the story and, you know, essentially like force them to do the story. Like, don't do that. Let them play off the characters. Let, you know, use the character as much as, you know, it works out for them. Don't try to force it. You can really break the game by doing that.
And don't be afraid to let them die. You know, you can always replace them with another NPC, but that's, I think, one of the key things that people do is they give the NPCs this invulnerability. You know, one of my biggest pet peeves with Diablo was you couldn't go into the town and just massacre all the people that were in there. You were like automatically stopped from hitting people in the town. You know. Yeah,
it's just frustrating when you can't kill a villain or you can't get something. Like if you're questing after something and the DM just keeps yanking it away from you. That's super frustrating. If you had a good plan and you know, you executed it well and luck was on your side, which is always luck in the game, then they should get what they're after. You know, you shouldn't keep yanking it. Now there are certain situations where you may want to do that, but to keep doing that, you're taking their agency away, which we've talked about before. You're taking their agency away. You're taking, why play the game if we can't change your story, right? Why are we playing this? Why are we characters in this game? So you should go with them, not they should go with you. Like, not they should do everything you want. You should try to bend to them because they are the most important things in the game, actually. You know, the other stuff is all just ancillary and just makes their journey more interesting.
And you, like in a villain sense, if they kill the villain early on, there's nothing wrong with reskinning the villain and sending them up the ladder. So it just becomes a badder, more intense version of the same, because, you know, villains attract villainous people, so there's going to be a bigger fish.
Exactly, so, yeah, you know, that wasn't the final villain, right? And, you know, also the reverse is true. So if you have a minor villain and they're supposed to die and they somehow live, you know, that's interesting too. You know, make them more active in the player's life. They've got a grudge, right? Now they've got a grudge against these characters. So yeah, play that up. I actually had that in my campaign. This minor villain was supposed to bite it, and he just became a major thorn in their side because he lived. You know, he got away from them. So yeah, the reverse is also true. Like, pick up on that stuff too.
In our modules, we have villains in each module, but they're not the villain. The villain, the players will only meet in module number 8, which is, you know, Temple in the Mountain. That's a significant way into the story. But what I like to do personally is my villains are, a lot of the times, a level 1 character, or they're a very basic character. But they occupy a position where people want to keep them in power, or people want to protect them, or they have a lot of money, or these sort of things. So they attract a lot of followers who are a lot more powerful than them, okay, that they use to protect themselves from people like the adventurers. but they themselves are not powerful, and that's why they have all these minions. I don't like it when it's, you know, you're in a game and it's like the villain is this like indestructible guy. Well, how come he needs all these people to protect him? Why does she need all these armies to protect her if she is super all-powerful and can cast these huge magic spells that can destroy huge villages and whatever? To me, it doesn't make any sense. So that's why I like my villains to be much weaker characters. They're weak not only in a physical sense, they're not combat-oriented or things like that, but they're weak in terms of their view of society. They don't have the sort of caring for other people and all this, which it's not a weakness as such. It's more of a psychological perversion or something to that effect. And we'll do a whole video on villains, but I just thought I'd bring that up because, you know, that is a character, and we left it out of the 4 because you shouldn't have the main villain in every single game. It should be something that's far off in the distance that all the other people kind of work for or work towards or something to that effect.
What's really going on is the heroes, the characters, are there to thwart the villain, right? And it's kind of reverse of what you might think. Like the villain's not necessarily there to thwart the NPC, or I'm sorry, thwart the player characters, because they've got a plan, right? Their plan is going forward, you know, whether the players are there or not, right? But it's the players that are constantly the thorn in the side. You know, the heroes are in the thorn in the side of the villains. So that's a very, very interesting dynamic, and it's a nice way to think about it.
I mean, you can flip it on its head, but I think most of the time it should be that the characters are thwarting what the villain is doing. Because if the villain is thwarting everything that the PCs do, you know, that it's not really reacting to what the players are doing. It's making the characters react to what it's doing. It's like it just feels wrong when you're doing it. It's just like, hang on, I've made a misstep here. So yeah, that's really what I think is that dichotomy there. But you know, we'll talk more about that in a future video. Right now, thank you very much for watching. Check out our modules on questgivers.com, and we will see you in the next video.
See you then, guys.